Hello, everyone. On to Chapter 10 about pay for performance and about the different types of plans. In Chapter 9, we kind of looked at the theory and the evidence behind pay for performance, and now we're going to look at some different types of plans that are very common as we pay individuals, what they're owed. So, and what you probably hear most about is this idea behind merit pay. How do I get pay increases? Whenever you start a new position, whether you get hired or you get promoted or you transfer, you kind of have a start, with a base, hourly rate or a base salary. So how do we, but for the vast majority of people, that number doesn't stay the same for your entire career. If you just made the exact same your entire career, probably one, not the best place to work, but two, it's, you want to be rewarded for learning more skills and doing more work. So the most basic idea behind that is the idea of merit pay, which links increases in base pay to how high employees are rated in a performance evaluation. And we'll talk about performance evaluations coming up very soon. But again, the whole idea is, at least in theory anyway, the higher you score on a performance evaluation, the better that you perform, your pay goes up in accordance with it. So if you, let's just say for a pure example that your performance evaluation, a 0 means you're failing and a 5 means you're outstanding. A lot of companies will have it set up so if you get a 5, you get a 10% increase. If you get a 4, you get a 7% increase, and etc. And if you get a 0 or a 1, you don't get any increase at all. So the whole idea behind merit pay is to reward employees for doing better and doing more efficient on their jobs. So make sure you understand the concept of merit pay because it will come up again and again and again throughout the rest of the semester. And very related to the idea of merit pay is this idea of a merit bonus, and a lot of companies, and more so in for-profit companies, a lot of nonprofits, universities, places like that tend not to give merit bonuses. But again, it's not necessarily tied to base pay. So it's usually just a one-time monetary number that you get for doing good work. And, you've kind of heard the whole idea of a Christmas bonus or an anniversary bonus. That's kind of what we're talking about with a merit bonus, is that you've done a good job. The company wants to reward you, so at Christmas maybe they'll give you a $5,000 increase, for example. Again, the whole idea is to reward you. It's not necessarily a number that's going to be added to your base pay. So if you make $100,000 a year, if they're going to give you that bonus, your new salary is not $105,000. You have your $100,000 plus just a one-time $5,000 payment. So make sure you understand that merit bonuses are not tied to base pay. They're just kind of usually a one-time or maybe a twice-a-year thing. So. Well, taking it a step further, I want to talk about, your Chapter 10 does a really good job of talking about all the different types of ways we can pay individuals. So, the two that are probably the most common are what we call straight piecework and standard hour plans. So straight piecework, it's based on units of production per period. You usually see straight piecework in like manufacturing. So let's say you work on an assembly line. Every time you put, let's say you work on a car assembly line. Let's say you're in charge of putting the steering wheel in. Every time you put a steering wheel in, you get paid $100. So if you put in 5 steering wheels, that's $500. So it's getting very, very straightforward, just based on units. If you mow lawns, you tell somebody, you'll give me $20 and I'll mow your lawn. So if you do that for 3 lawns, there's $60 right there. So again, straight piecework is just based on the units that you take care of per period, however long you're working. So whereas a standard hour plan, you basically get paid per hour, and that's how the vast majority of us get paid. So, if you, work at JCPenney's, for example, you might make $15 an hour. So every time you work an hour, you get $15. A mechanic, where I was just giving you an example where a mechanic, could charge a piecework, say, okay, I will charge you $100 to put on new tires, for example. That would be straight piecework. Whereas a mechanic say, okay, it's going to take me 3 hours to take care of your car. I charge $50 an hour, so that would be $150. So again, make sure you know the differences between a straight piecework and a standard hour play, because those are the two most common ways that we pay individuals for work. And then your book does a good job of really going into several other versions of these plans. They're all based on this idea of method of rate of determination. So you'll see examples like Taylor, Merrick, Halsey, Rowan, Gantt. All of these are different ways to pay people based on your book. I don't expect you to memorize those. Again, I want you to read them and know what they are, but I'm not going to sit there and go through every little detail with each one. What you need to know, what I want you to know about all those plans, Taylor, Merrick, Rowan, Gantt, etc., is that they're based on method of rate. And method of rate asks two main questions. Is pay constant or is pay variable? So are you going to make the same amount for for however long you work, or does your pay vary based on how many hours you work? Does it pay based on, if you work a different shift, if you work overnights, do you get paid more? So pay can be variable. The second question is, how does production relate to time? So if you're expected to produce a certain amount, how does that production relate to the time that it takes to get it done? So method of rate, is pay constant or variable? How does production relate to time? Those are the two main questions that we want to ask. So related to that, it would be Exhibit 10.10, which kind of talks about the pros and the cons of individualized incentive plans. Again, I just know kind of the pros and cons of the different approaches because, again, those are really the more important to me than having to memorize what Rowan is or what Gantt is. Just know the pros and cons of the different types of incentive plans. So finally, for this chapter, we've been focusing on the individual itself, obviously with good reason. But, in a lot of structures and especially a bunch of larger companies, the idea of group incentive plans becomes heavily relevant. So how do we reward employees individually, but it's also done in a group setting? So your book talks about gain sharing, profit share, stock ownership. These are ways that we can give back and allow employees to be, owners of the company through owning stock or, sharing in the profits of the company. So they're done on an individual basis, but the group as a whole, so, whatever group that we're talking about, can profit if they all work together to increase the revenue or the production goals or whatever it is of that area. So make sure you have a general understanding of what the group incentive plans and how they can motivate behavior. All right, well, those are the main things for Chapter 10 that I wanted you to know. So again, different types of paper performance between 9 and 10, and we're moving right along. So thank you, everyone.